welcome to my next build, which is the armoured cruiser Admiral Nakhimov, and it's by Dom Bumagi in 1/200 scale. My interest in this ship is that it took part in the Battle of Tsushima alongside the Borodino, which I'm also building. So this is one of Dom Bumagi's newer kits where it's actually bound across the top instead of being loose leaves. So let me cut off the spine and then we'll come back and have a look. Okay, so I've cut the spine off, so that will release the pages. So let's have a look. On the rear, the front cover, you have a bit of history. This is in Russian or Ukrainian, because Dom Bumagi is a Ukrainian company, and I don't talk either of it or read either of it, but I might translate it at a later stage just to see if there's any information I need to know. But it looks like it's just a history. So the first sheet we have is the underwater hull. It's very nice. It's got like a metallic finish to it. Not sure if it's been picked up in the camera. But it makes a change from the usual red or green hulls. So we've got the lower hull skins. This looks like a propeller hubs here. The bilge keel, the rudder, and I'm guessing these are for the propeller shaft tubes. Nothing on the back. The next sheet we have shows the main deck and some of the hull sides and the funnel. I really like the colour of the deck. A good thing that they've done here is wherever things have to glue onto, they've either made black or this dark brown colour. Usually in some kits they're white, and then what happens is if they're slightly out of shape or out of place, you can see the white at the location point. But with it being black, if it's slightly out, it doesn't stick out so much. Also on the rear side, they've got some colours, which is like the black and the red, which corresponds to the actual part. So I'm guessing, based on the fact that these are red, means these are the air ventilation shafts or funnels. And say the funnel here, they've made black, again just to save you having to colour it. Next sheet looks at the main ornaments. So here's the turrets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 turrets, and each turret's got 2 guns. And then we've got some of the deck components as well. This sheet shows the upper decks where the con and the bridge would be. I really like the wood and the black for the different cabins. And again, we've got a slight change of colour for this upper deck, which I'm guessing would have the compass on it. Some grates and ladders. And the other ones. Yeah, I really like the colouring of this one. And again, they've got some, the rear sides in black, just to save you having to colour them yourself. We've got various components here. These all look to be the framework for the upper decks. Some braces. I think these are all the davits, like the lower mounting points in the davit themselves. And in this case, they've done the whole sheet in black. It's a really big help because it saves you having to colour and match the black of the paper, so it's a good thought. Here we have the ship's boats. I'm not sure how many there is actually, to be honest. Some of the flags. They've also gave us a swatch of just pure black. And again, this is really good to have this. The Borodino didn't provide any. It just means that you can, if you mess up a part, you can make a new one, cutting it from here. And again, it just means that the printing here matches the printing in the rest of the ship, so you don't have to worry about that. And here's the insides of the boats. So the outside and then the inside has all the ribs and whatnot highlighted. It's another good touch. Now I think this is a spare sheet. So we've got the yellow here, which again is just a swatch that's been provided. I need to check what that says, but I think these are funnels for the Aurora, which I do have as well. But if you look at the Aurora funnels, the yellow is such a bright primary yellow. It looks silly. So I think this is actually a replacement for them. Why it's in this kit, I don't know. And then again, we've got some additional boats and a cabin, but I don't know. I'll have to check. I don't know if this is for this kit or not. And then we start getting into the thinner sheets here, which is typically the instructions or the form for the hull. So this has got the gold colour. It's very thin. So what you would do is you would glue this onto thicker card and then cut that out. But we'll look at that later because I actually have laser cut forms for that. Nothing on this one. And again, we're getting into the lower hull now. Now this looks, I think this is the gun deck, which is below the main deck. And I'm guessing the brown here is to represent linoleum, which was used on the decks of ships. Down here we have a legend, which tells us what to do for each of the different things. So P and L is right and left. W, I think, is to cut out. That just means to roll it around where the part needs to be rolled. Oops. The part needs to be rolled, and then that's rolled tightly. And then that's rolled around the diameter, which will tell you in the middle. That will be a direction, typically points to the bow. That will be fold. And then you've got the asterisks. One asterisk means to increase the thickness. I need to see what that says. Normally one asterisk is 0.5 millimeter. And then in this case, two asterisks is 1 millimeter. I need to see what that is. It might just mean the thickness of the paper again. And then the rest of these sheets are the underlying hull. So you would glue this sheet onto thicker card and then manually cut it out. So we've got a number of these. Before I start, I'll go through and translate this just in case there's some important notes I need to know about. And then you've actually got other formwork. Again, you need to glue this down onto 1 millimeter card because of the two asterisks. But this will be the insides of cabins, and I'm guessing that's maybe the funnel there. Here's the davits. So we'll have a look at the laser cut forms that I've got, which means I don't need to cut these out. Then we have a sheet here, which is on the thin paper, and these will be the gun barrels, which needs to be rolled around 2mm and 4mm. And I'm guessing these will be masts, I'm not sure. Also down this side what you have is the different shapes and sizes of all the metalwork that you need to make, and I'll use brass wire for these. So it gives you the part number, the dimension, which will be, if I pick this one, is 0.3mm, and you need 8 of them. So you need to make them up as per what these are saying. Now these are to scale, so you can see are not 0.8mm wire, it's the kind of 0.3, and that's the correct shape. So you'd actually form the part on top of this. Now we get into the instructions. So here's the underwater hull. And some of the details for the companionways, some of the vents, another companionway, bollards, and then it looks like this is the Admiral's walk, and it just shows you some of the details, like hatch covers, etc. So again, I'll need to go through this and just see what that's telling me. A1N and A1. There's some specific thing I have to take care of. On the back side we have more of the hull, and you can see this section here was that paper linoleum effect, because here's the gun positions. The main turrets, a roof light, skylight. Then this is showing you the actual underwater skins, which is the gold metallic-y finish ones. Propellers, again more like skylights. And then some of the details. So here's, these are the lower deck guns. Because you can see they're on this horseshoe shape, which was on the printed deck. And then there's the gun carriages. They look very detailed. Capstans. And then the upper hull. And it's showing you all the details here. So the davits, handrails, anchors, steps, the hatches, the frame for the upper deck. Oops. There's the funnel, and I guess the engine room, vents and things. And then it's now getting into the more overall structures. So it's just showing you where capstans go. You've got the upper deck with the bridge. Oh, it's a spotlight. Oh, here's the compass here. The mast. So here's the formwork which will form this cabin here. And it's got a couple of Hotchkiss guns on it. Okay, and then this is the upper deck, underside of the upper deck. So all these numbers, I'm guessing, is framework for the underside. Ship's bell, funnels, not sure. Some kind of ventilator. The capstan itself looks pretty involved as well. I mean, look at all the parts in the capstan. Let's just show you positions of things, flagstaff. Here's a common cabin with the compass platform on top of it, compass itself. Then here's the upper deck. Just showing you the various parts that go into it. So here's the thwarts for the ship's boats to sit on. You have to make some buckets as well. I guess maybe they're fire buckets. Okay, assembling the masts. I think these are practice guns. And then you've got the real gun here. Some of the spotlights. So there's quite a number of sheets for the instructions anyway, which is good. The anchors. Some platform here. I'm guessing that's some type of boom. That's just an underside view of that. And then the masts. So here's the davits. These are quite involved and quite large and complicated. So they actually got the boat, I think they're called thwarts, where the boat sits on, and then the davit above it. The accommodation ladder, which will get you from the deck down to the water. And then we've got some, looks like a Gatling gun or some type. And then the steam launches. So it shows you making up the boiler with the funnels. If it's got a letter in front of it, that means it's one of the ones you have to make from brass or wire. So C43 will be some brass wire. C51 will be brass wire for this kind of canopy cover, or canopy framework. And that appears to be the instructions, quite a lot of instructions. And then the final sheet is just a side profile and plan view. This seems to be the only rigging that they've given you, but these ships, although they're not a sailing ship, they still have a considerable amount of rigging. So I think even on the front picture, it's a small picture, but it shows you a substantial amount of rigging, so a bit of research will be needed just to find out all the different lines. But yeah, looking forward to this. That's a lot in the hardcover. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the laser cut form next. So this will replace all the templates that you glue on to the underside onto thicker card, and then you have to cut them out. These are already cut by laser on thick card, so we'll have a look. This is supplied by GPM, which do a lot of laser cutting for other brands. So, and this is for the Admiral Nakhimov, as we can see. This, what's supplied is very light compared to a lot of laser cut sets you get. This only has, I think, 5 or 6 sheets, and it all seems to be the heavier stuff. So here's the main, or the deck sides. These will be strengthening parts. And then here's where the cabins and things, you can see the underneath framework for them. And then these are all the hull itself. I always get these if I can, because they save a lot of work on the material, because you actually have to source thicker card for it anyway. So you have to source the thicker card, and then each of these parts you have to manually cut out by hand, whereas these, they've just got some little tabs to cut. And we'll see that in part 2 when we start on this hull. Also, there's a lot of waste here, what I do is once I've removed all the parts, I'll save all these big parts because it's handy to keep, because you may have to use for duplicating or thickening up other components where the instructions will say glue to thick card. Well, you've got the same card that the rest of it's made from, so it makes sense to do it that way. And then I think that's the top deck. And that's it. You don't get any of this finer detail. So some sets will have maybe 0.5mm card, and that will be a lot of like brace work or bracing and smaller components. It's and again, it's handy. It saves you cutting them out by hand. Typically, you only have to colour them to match the same as what the paper part is, but this only has the thicker components. Okay, so that'll do for this part. Next part, we'll start cutting these out, and then we'll form up the hull. So this looks like to be the overall size of the ship. Maybe a bit longer, depending where this sits in the hull. Because this one actually looks, yeah, as you can see, it's maybe a bit longer than this. Okay, thanks for watching.